Indictment 2597 of 1997, People of the State of New York versus Vanessa Gathers.
Will the court entertain a motion?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the people would move to vacate the conviction of Ms. Gathers from the jury verdict that was returned against her in 1998, convicting her of manslaughter in the second degree, robbery in the first degree, and burglary in the second degree. The basis for moving to vacate the conviction is under CPL section 440 subsection, or excuse me, 44010, and in the interest of justice. The sole evidence against Ms. Gathers in her 1998 trial was a confessional statement that she made in 1997, first given orally and reduced to writing by Detective Louis Scarcella, and then in a videotaped statement that was made to an assistant district attorney, also in the presence of Detective Scarcella. Now, in 1998, there was precious little that any of us knew about the science of false confessions. Since that time, it has become common knowledge and accepted wisdom that false confessions, in fact, do happen, and that there is a science to looking at factors which lead to false confessions and evidence of false confessions within those statements. The most striking thing about the confession of Ms. Gathers was that it was not a narrative confession. Rather, it was in acquiescence to various scenarios that were put to her. In other words, during the course of the questioning that was conducted by Detective Scarcella and then the questioning that was conducted by the assistant district attorney, she never came out with a narrative of the events that occurred in 1992, which led to the death of Mr. Shaw, the deceased in this case. Certainly, it was legally sufficient because she admitted to acting in concert with another individual in the beating of Mr. Shaw and a taking of property. However, a more careful analysis of that statement leads one to believe that the scenarios and the situations that she acquiesced to or confessed to were not in fact true.
On behalf of Ms. Gathers, her defense team proudly joins in the motion to vacate the judgment and to dismiss the indictment. Your Honor, there are really primarily two reasons why justice will finally be achieved in this case today. The first reason, actually two reasons, are sitting in the front row there. The District Attorney, Ken Thompson, and his Chief Assistant, Eric Gonzalez. Ms. Gathers is here today as living proof that the District Attorney does not just talk the talk, he walks the walk. This case cried out for attention for all the reasons Mr. Hale just described. I'll be perfectly clear about it also. The only incriminating evidence admitted at trial against our client was a confession obtained by former Detective Louis Scarcella, and a confession with almost from the moment it happened, Ms. Gathers insisted and would insist repeatedly over testimony had been coerced and was false. Given newly discovered evidence about Detective Scarcella's past wrongdoing and his central role in securing this conviction, the case just could no longer be defended. But it took these two men to get us here today. In all our dealings with them, they have been professional, they have exhibited integrity and courage. We commend them and we thank them. The other principal reason we're here today, Your Honor, is Ms. Gathers. In the time leading up to her arrest by Detective Scarcella in 1992, she had never previously been on the NYPD's radar screen. She had no criminal convictions, no history of drug abuse, no history of violence. She then goes into prison for 10 years. Ms. Gathers is released in 2007. She is hired the first week out of her release by a couple who, guess what, had volunteered in the prison and could see firsthand how remarkable this woman was. And she worked for that couple for 7 years until they just sold their business a year ago, and she's been unemployed ever since. But for us, again, as defense lawyers, we had a remarkable record. And it wasn't because of calculation or some Machiavellian foresight. It's because she is fundamentally a decent woman who has lived more than a decent life her whole life.
All right, then based upon the representations made before me this afternoon, I grant Ms. Gathers' motion to vacate her conviction, and further, based upon the people's representation, that there is insufficient evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, the indictment is dismissed and sealed. Good luck.
What are you gonna do now? Go on with my life.
Today we move to vacate Ms. Gathers' manslaughter conviction, one that caused her to spend 10 years in prison and 5 years on parole for manslaughter that she did not commit. And so today is our 18th exoneration. And today, with this exoneration, Vanessa Gathers gets her good name back. And now she can finally be free of the burden that she had to carry unjustly for 18 years.
And how do you feel about this?
I feel that justice was done, because the ultimate duty of a prosecutor is to do justice.
She was the first woman.
The first woman exonerated by my conviction review unit.
How was she in the process? I mean, was she,
She
her
is-
demeanor, how did she handle it?
She handled it with dignity and grace. Not an ounce of bitterness in her. I mean, she is the face of wrongful convicted people. These wrongful convictions destroy lives. And no matter what happens, Ms. Gathers will never be able to get back those 10 years. And you see how much of a classy lady she is. We've got to prevent these wrongful convictions. And we have to correct these miscarriages of justice here in Brooklyn and anywhere else in the country.